Hey 12, it's the Seahawks Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything Seattle Seahawks every week, breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Emerald City, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get loud, 12s. The Seahawks Squad Show starts now.
Welcome back into the Seahawks Squad Show. This is the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hirst, Christopher Crawford, Robert Turbin, a.k.a. Turbo, and Corbin Smith are with you today. Today's our running back episode. We're going to go a huge deep dive into the running back position. I think it comes at a perfect time, especially with the Kenny McIntosh injury. Corbin Smith tells me, who was at practice today, it was a great day for the running back, so it's a perfect time to dive deep into kind of the effects of the injury. We're going to talk about the running back position as a whole in this offense with, of course, let's utilize our guy, Super Bowl 48 champion and former Seattle Seahawk, Robert Turbin, with us, so we can kind of dive deep into what all that position entails, what it's all about, and how it's going to work for the Seahawks in this scheme today. So if you're a running back fan, this episode is for you. But before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. But big news over the weekend. You don't normally see kind of big injuries or big news breaks like this, even if it is a quote-unquote third-string running back. But Kenny McIntosh, done for the year, tore his ACL in a special teams drill on Saturday. We're going to get initial reactions. We're going to go around the horn here. Corbin, were you there when it happened?
I was not. That's the only practice I have not been to. Okay. However, I have very good friends that are also reporting on this, and I also happen to know a few fans that were in the stands, which it's a good thing that happened because none of the other reporters saw this happen. I talked to all of them. Nobody saw it. They were all in another part of the practice field, and Turbo knows how this is. You've got three fields out there, and there's usually players on all three of them, and that's what was going on at that point, and a lot of people were not over that direction. However, I've got
nobody
a couple
wants
friends
to watch special teams
either. And so even though this was listed as a non-contact injury initially, I've got two people that I trust that were in the stands that said that he collided with somebody when they were doing a special teams drill. So I can't tell you exactly how that went down, but that is what happened. And unfortunately, difficult circumstances for Kenny McIntosh.
Yeah, definitely a tough spot to be in for him. Before we dive into kind of how this affects the rest of the roster and the running back depth, I'm going to ask you guys kind of what you foresaw for him coming into this year. What was his role? I think he was someone that really came on at the end of last year. I was really excited to see what he was going to bring into this offense, mainly from a pass catching perspective in 2025. But Turbo, what do you see from McIntosh in year one? How were you excited for him coming into this year? Obviously, it's tough to see a fellow running back go down like this in a training camp situation. Working a special teams drill nonetheless, but what kind of role did you foresee him having coming into this year before this injury?
Well, I think the positive thing is you asked me about last season. What did we see from Kenny McIntosh? We saw improvement over the course of the year, and we saw improvement because he was able to get, opportunities pretty sparingly earlier in the season, more so as the season went on, especially with the injuries to K9. And so the more opportunities he got, looked like kid was getting better, right? And so you want to take that momentum, into year two. So it sucks to just, have to your season pretty much get cut from underneath you because of an unfortunate injury. But, as far as his role going into this year, I thought special teams, he got hurt in special teams. That was going to be his role, probably as a returner, in the kick return game and be on some other special teams, kickoff and punt and things of that nature. That was going to be his role. It has to be your role if you want to make the team as a third string running back. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as his impact in the backfield, I'm not quite sure I was going to see a huge impact from him this season in the backfield, assuming Zach Charbonnet Kenneth Walker III are going to stay healthy throughout the entirety of the year. Maybe they sprinkle him in on some third down packages, get him involved in the passing game, but that's about it. I didn't really see like this huge impact or this package, that Coach Clint Kubiak was going to have, all right, for McIntosh. So unfortunate that he got hurt. I think what the Seahawks are losing right now is his impact on special teams more than anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of people kind of forget about that role, and I think he would have been one of the first choices for me at least, but for a lot of people it seemed like to be returning kickoffs. So I think that's going to be something the Seahawks will have to fill the void as of now. But what about you, Chris Crawford? What did you see from McIntosh last year? What are they missing now with his injury early in training camp?
I just think it's anytime you take away depth from a position like running back, it's a bummer, right? Like just because, Robert knows as well as anybody that it is a position where you take a lot of physical wear and tear, and having two guys who, are kind of punishing runners, in Kenneth Walker and in Zach Charbonnet, having a little bit of a third down type of back is a nice type of thing as well. Now, I will say, with crisis comes opportunity, and I'm super excited to see what we talked about in the very first show, that I am a huge Damian Martinez fan. I thought he was one of the absolute steals of the draft. I'm excited at what he can do. I'm excited to see George Holani, a guy who really gave Kenny McIntosh a big old push for that third running back spot for a long time. I'm excited to see what he can do. Jacardia Wright, a undrafted guy out of, I believe, Missouri State. We'll see. What
Missouri State.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll get to see what that stuff does. I just hate seeing these type of injuries this early. An obvious point is obvious that, you never want to see guys go down. But I was so encouraged by what I saw, particularly from McIntosh in those last two games where he made the most of limited opportunities. I believe he ran for 95 yards on 14 carries in those final two games. I was really curious to see. And it's also worth pointing out, McIntosh missed the overwhelming majority of his rookie season as well because of injuries. So you have to wonder if this is going to be a recurring thing, unfortunately, as well.
Yeah, and especially when you've had the injury bug bite you at that position with your number one guy, Ken Walker. So it was nice to kind of have, obviously you got Zach Charbonnet as your firm number two. You had a good upside guy in Kenny McIntosh that if in case Walker did have any sort of issues on that front, that you felt confident he could step in. But now you got Damian Martinez. Corbin, what do you expect from him, George Holani, and anyone else that is in this spot now where there's a spot to fill? There's a roster spot available. What have you seen so far from training camp? You tell me right before we go live that this is a really good day for running backs. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, look, Damian Martinez, Mike McDonald talked about it after practice yesterday. He is one of those guys that you weren't going to be overly impressed by him until the pads came out. And sure enough, the pads come out the last 2 days, and we have seen this guy show up. And I will say this, and I did not get the privilege I was not a beat reporter yet when Turbo and Marshawn were running backs for the Seahawks. I did get to cover Lynch for the one game in Green Bay and coming back to San Francisco. So I didn't see those guys do one-on-one pass protection drills. But Damian Martinez yesterday, that was as good of a pass protection drill by a running back as I've seen in the 9 years that I've been covering the Seahawks. It's up there with Chris Carson, who was a masterclass at that drill. He was drawing all kinds of praise from Kennedy Palomalu, who, let's face it, normally if he's yelling, it's not for good reason, but he was shouting yesterday. He was excited about what Damian Martinez was doing. He rumbled for a 6-yard touchdown run today. He just looks and plays different when the pads come on. And there are certain guys that are like that. And George Holani, look, there's some bias here. I'm a Boise State fan, and I've loved this kid since he first stepped on campus on the Smurf turf. But look, the guy just gets after it, and he is a football player. He was a key special teams guy when he got his chances last year. He ripped off a 65-yard touchdown run today at practice, going by Caravan on a split zone, and it was so beautiful the way the blocking unfolded. They got their horizontal displacement. He is effective at quickly getting upfield and rockets past the linebacker, and then he's gone. He had another touchdown in their red zone period. George Holani was a guy I was talking about before the season, like, hey, let's not so fast, my friend. Lee Corso speech here. Like, make sure that you are watching this kid closely because I think he has a more polished all-around skill set than what Damian Martinez does. Martinez has to show he can be a consistent receiver. George Holani runs routes like a receiver. So that's a big difference between those two.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I like what you brought up about the pass blocking, because that's another aspect. You talk about different things that running backs specifically do that kind of get overlooked a little bit. It's the pass catching. It's the pass protection as well, especially in an offense like Clint Kubiak's. Turbo, what are you going to look for from Damian Martinez, a rookie, and George Holani that makes you feel comfortable? Not obviously you don't want to lose someone like Kenny McIntosh, but what's going to give you confidence if those guys can do this, then I will feel okay with them stepping into that role.
It comes down to consistency. Everybody's got skill. When you get to this level, everybody's got talent. The guy that's going to play is the guy that the coaches can trust. The guy that the coach can trust is the guy that's going to do the right thing consistently. So look, we know, you talked about it. George Holani, he can run routes out of the backfield. He's quick twitch. He's got more of an all-around game. But can he do that downs 1 through 3 in an NFL football game? Damian Martinez maybe doesn't have the skill catching the ball out of the backfield, but guess what? When they bring 2 linebackers in the A gap, he's going to be able to step up and get one. Can we say the same thing about George Holani? So it's just it's give and take, and you got to be able to do like all the things in terms of having that trust to be able to be on the field downs 1 through 3. Some guys are package guys. George Holani might be a third and long type player, and that's just what he does great. When he's in the game, that's a tell for the defense. Probably a pass unless they give it to him on a draw. So for me, when I look at the running back position, man, not everybody's going to have the versatility. You like to see it. Can he make a guy miss in space? Is he going to break tackles? But really, it just comes down to consistency, because the consistency is what builds trust for the coaches or for anybody to be able to put you out there, all right, to go win a game on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And especially later down in the depth chart, like you just got to be able to trust a guy to put him in there in a specific situation, get this job done. It's a great point there from Turbo. Chris, what excited you so much about Damian Martinez, and do you think he can be that guy to step up? We'll get into Nostradamus, Chris, later. Turbo, you haven't been here for this segment yet, but at the end of every show, we do something that's called Predict the Future. So I'm going to throw a question out to you guys, and you guys have to predict what's going to happen throughout the rest of the year. So, and Chris is kind of the guy for that, Nostradamus, Chris, as you can probably tell by the name. So we'll get to that point eventually. But Chris, what did you like so much about Martinez? Because it's not just you. Other people that I've talked to have been hyped about him, and was like a 7th round pick. People don't normally like that excited about, but like with his skill set, what do you think makes him fit for this offense?
And the fact he fell to the 7th round speaks, I think, more to how deep this running back draft was. The fact that there were so many guys that belonged in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that somebody was going to slide. I'm going to age myself here. He reminds me a lot of Natrone Means, who is an old running back for the San Diego Chargers, who's just powerful. And he is a guy who, if you watched Oregon State play when they were at their best before he makes the transfer to Miami, he was just punishing, just absolutely punishing. And he was still that guy at Miami as well. Didn't get quite the shine there. There was a certain quarterback that got a lot of attention in Miami. You may have heard about him. He's just powerful. And I can't help but think, like, you have Kenneth Walker, who we talked about, the guy who set a PFF record in most missed tackles per attempt, right? You got that guy, and then you have Zach Charbonnet, who is a punishing runner. And then you got a chance for Damian Martinez to come spell those guys. Man, that's a miserable day for a front 7, right? Having to tackle those 3 guys, just running super hard between the tackle. The style of football I think they want to play, I just think he matches it so well. And I'm not saying Holani doesn't either. That's a guy, who can strong like bull as well and run through these guys. But Damian Martinez just runs so freaking hard that I think he's going to have a lot of success. And the fact they were able to get him in the 7th round and address so many needs while not reaching in any of those rounds as well, to get a player like that, boy, it sure does behoove them now, especially with the McIntosh injury. I'm super excited to see Martinez this preseason.
It's a really good point. And it's another reason why the preseason, I think, is going to be one of the most exciting preseasons that Seahawks fans have had in a long time. So Okay, that's a great transition point for us because I want to get into specifically the running game in this offense because I know Corbin's been dying to talk to my guy Turbo and to kind of break it all down. We're going to pick his brain as someone who's done it at the absolute highest level. A X's and O's coach. Corbin, remind me, did you coach running backs when you were coaching?
Yeah, I coached running backs and I had a year as an offensive coordinator.
Excellent. Okay.
Where?
I was in Indianapolis, so I moved to Seattle afterwards.
I know, but like what, high school or what? Like where?
Yep.
Nice. Which I played in Indy for 3 years. So which school were you coaching?
I was coaching at Franklin Central, so I was calling plays for the JV, but I was the varsity running back coach. And my last year there, we had 2,000-yard rushers, so we were a run-heavy offense.
Love it. Hey, one thing I want to get to real quick, Anderson, is
go ahead.
This room is. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out because let's not forget, Oots is how we pronounce the fullback's name, right?
Yeah. Robbie Oots.
So you got him. Let's just assume okay, he's gonna play fullback.
Right.
Typically, you got 4 backs total. Like when Mike Robb was the fullback, me, Marshawn, Mike Robb, C. Mike.
Right.
4. And so what a tight race it's gonna be because can Damian Martinez play special teams? Could be the deciding factor at the end of it. Just want to throw that out there.
Even though we know Holani can. Holani's a really good
exactly.
Real quick, this might be where the practice squad rules really come into play here as well, right? Definitely. Because of the fact that you can promote one of these guys, I think that's going to be a big benefit as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great point. And all these battles are something, again, we're going to be watching during preseason. So really, really intriguing competition going on there. And this just reminds me, I know we can't.
My nickname was Corbin Dioxide, but I'll
Corbin Dioxide. I like that. I like that even better. I like that. I like that.
I've never had a nickname that cool. That's sick.
And don't tell me what a good time. That was the same guy that told me to hop back in there. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
I got 6 or 7 of them in me carries.
I got one, and then make sure the ambulance is there.
Yeah, Turbo, I see those arms right now. I know you're good for a dozen, dude. I know
Well, the arms are one thing, but the stamina is another.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Cardio.
Hit that stiff arm button the whole time. Stick it out right now, and just when you're running through that gap, just do that, and you're good, dude.
The diet's a little different in retirement,
Man, whatever diet you're on, I'll take that for sure.
I'm just gonna say.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna dive deep into the running back position and the running game in general with this offense with Corbin Smith and Robert Turbin. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, and that's where Gametime comes in.
Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to game time, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. One of my favorite parts is the fact that you don't have to scroll through and look at where am I going to be sitting here? They actually sort things by the best seats available, the best deals available. So not only are you saving money, you're saving time with Gametime, and you have to love that.
Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, make sure to create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back into the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hirst, Robert Turbin, a.k.a. Turbo, Corbin Smith, and Christopher Crawford, all with you as we break down the latest from your Seattle Seahawks. We have 1 week under our belts with Seahawks training camp. So we're going to kind of get the boots on the ground coverage from Corbin Smith. We're going to get the former players mentality from Robert Turbin. And then myself and Christopher Crawford are just going to try and make sense of it all from a kind of a fan's perspective. And, Chris is much smarter than I am, so I'll kind of lean on him for that kind of stuff. So we will eventually get to the point where at the end of the show, as we always like to do, predict the future. I have a very special one at the end of today's episode. Nostradamus Chris will make an appearance. But first, we're going to have a nice big breakdown with the running game in the Clint Kubiak offense. I think a lot of fans, we've heard so much about, with Ryan Grubb last year, he was kind of a guy that didn't really commit to the running game very much. And from a novice kind of, my untrained eyes would tell me that same thing as well. What is going to be different about this scheme, and why is it going to make it more effective for the rest of the offense and the whole football team in general? So I'm going to turn it a little bit over to Corbin Smith and let him and Turbo kind of work it out. Myself and Chris Crawford will poke in whenever we can if we have a question or something like that. But the two experts on this topic specifically, let's turn it over to them. Corbin Smith, take it away.
Yeah, look, I've been fired up to talk about this for weeks just because, look, it's been a hot minute since the Seahawks have had even an average running game. And some of it has been the lack of commitment. And to me, and I'm sure Turbo agrees on this, if you want to be a good running football team at any level, but particularly the NFL, like, you can't just occasionally want to do it. Like, there's got to be a mindset. There's got to be a mentality that goes with that. And the personnel moves the Seahawks have made, the coaching staff moves that they've made, everything has been pivoting to get that ground game where it needs to be, where this can be not only a top 20 rushing attack. I mean, right now we would take that over what we had the last 2 years, but sure, this can be a top 10 caliber run game that takes pressure off Sam Darnold, makes it the quarterback does not have to carry such a heavy burden, and that they're able to establish play action. They can mix in their bootlegs and get Sam Darnold out of the pocket, which watching him in practice has just further confirmed this to me. To me, that is his best strength. When Sam Darnold is outside the pocket, he might be a top 5 passer throwing across his body, rolling out to the left. Like, he delivers beautiful passes that way. But for all that stuff to work, you've got to have the ground game. And from a coaching standpoint, and a former player, obviously did not play the level Turbo did, but being a former running back myself, when you look at what they are going to be doing, I am extremely excited about seeing the athletic profiles that they have up front and getting guys out of their stance, running to make blocks on these zone concepts. And I mentioned George Holani's touchdown run today. That was a perfectly executed split zone. Seeing Robbie Oots going across the formation, wham blocking, and just destroying the end. Then you've got your 5 linemen shooting out to their left. You get the vertical displacement, and then George Holani. I think zone running actually, you really have to be incredibly decisive. You've got to know when. There's got to be a feel that crease is coming. George Holani showed that there. Gets downhill, and then you're able to see him turn on the jets. And this is a guy that ran in the high 4.4s, and he was showing off that speed, running past everybody on that touchdown run. But I just think that they have put the people in place to be able to get that vertical and horizontal displacement that they are looking for, climbing to the second level being obviously the vertical displacement. They've got the athletes to be able to do that. It's going to boil down to, can they get the technique taught? Because I think that was the biggest problem for this offensive line last year. I think Scott Huff, quite frankly, like his colleague Ryan Grubb, I think they were over their heads trying to work with NFL players, and it showed up in the trenches. John Benton, you're not going to have that issue. John Benton is a technician and a half. He's been in the league for more than 2 decades. So I think you're already seeing some of those results. And I think they have put the personnel in place. They've just got to develop these guys, which John Schneider had said all offseason was really the key. And that's why, other than drafting Grace Abel, they really didn't make any major personnel changes on their offensive line. They think the coaching was the biggest issue, and they've got the athletic pieces to be able to run a zone-heavy offense with Clint Kubiak's scheme.
Yeah, so Turbo, I'm going to turn it over to you. From a boots-on-the-ground kind of reporting perspective with someone who has been in those rooms before, what do you say? Do you think it was the coaching that was the main issue with the offensive line and the running game last year, or do you think you need to see something more specifically maybe from the running back position?
No, I think our running backs are good.
Okay.
From a coaching standpoint, they just didn't commit. And so, when you don't commit, it's hard to get production, from your running backs. Running backs in some games, it's difficult enough, especially in the first half, to be able to run the football and make those big plays. Man, I need the ball. I need to feel what's going on out here. And if I'm not getting out on a consistent basis, man, it's hard for my natural instincts to kick in. Now I'm thinking, and I don't want to think when I'm running the ball. I just want to play. Yeah. It comes down to being able to, it comes down to being in control, controlling the game. That's what's going to be the difference here with Clint Kubiak calling the offense. There's been many games that I can think back. We're down at halftime, down double digits, and we came out in the third quarter running the football. You don't get us out. You don't get us out of what we do. You're not going to get me out of control. You're going to make me lose my composure. It's about running the ball.
Yeah.
Running the ball allows you to stay composed, continue to be who you are, and control the game.
Yep. How
often do we see teams that can run the football? The Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings last season. You like,
Eagles.
Dang, the other team, then you look at the time of possession, like, dang, the other team barely had the football.
Yeah.
Because the team that can run the ball is in control, whether they're up on the score or down. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so, to me, it's about being in control, having control, and then it comes down to being able to get to the fourth quarter. You get to the fourth quarter, you've been able to run the football. I know it sounds cliche. It's like, the defense gets tired and you didn't wore the defense down. I'm going to tell you guys right now, it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's real. When I go back to the huddle in the fourth quarter and I see defensive line who've been balling all game, but now he's got his hands on his hips.
Yep.
We feel good about that.
You're licking your chops, right?
Yeah. You're like, okay, checkmate.
Yeah.
With some cuss words behind it.
You're a shark sensing blood in the water in that case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about being it's almost like the run game, like when you commit to it and you can do it at a high level. Like, forget controlling the time of possession and the clock. It's about being in control of yourself.
Right.
Like, whether you're on the road or at home, like, you are in control of who you are as an offense. Yeah. Right. It's like stepping to the free throw line, on the road in the game 7, and the crowd is, and you got people, pulling their bellies out. You're focused on the rim. You're in control. Yeah. That's what the run game does. Yeah. Right. So it's about being in control, man. And then when you get to those fourth quarters, man, and the breathing gets a little bit heavier and stuff like that, that's when guys kind of make mistakes in assignments, and boom, you hit them with the play action and all those things that we talk about, man. But so to me, when it comes to the run game and why the scheme is so important and why it's going to be effective with Clint Kubiak, is because this offense is going to be in more control of themselves, more control of the game. And then those plays in the fourth quarter, they're going to happen more often. We didn't get the plays in the fourth quarter last year like that. We just didn't. Not consistently enough. And I think that's going to be the big game changer.
Or, Turbo, they had opportunities and they didn't do it. Like, I'm looking at the Vikings and Packers games. Like, those games, like the Packers game, Zach Charbonnet rips off a 26-yard touchdown run, and then they get a quick 3 and out. They don't run the ball the rest of the game. And, by the way, they had a backup quarterback in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I talked to people in the building, a lot of people in the building. I expected Ryan Grubb to get fired. I had my article ready 45 minutes after the news broke because I had been working on stuff with it. But look, that game and the Vikings game, when they got inside the 40-yard line with like 3.5 minutes to go, and then they just keep dropping in shotgun with 4 wide, and Geno Smith is hung out to dry. Everyone's going to blame the quarterback, but like the refusal to embrace the run game when you had a chance to finish the game, that cost them a playoff spot at the end of the year.
So I was just looking at something that kind of backs that up because, sometimes you have a feeling in your gut and then you take a look at the numbers and it might be a little bit different. Last year, the Seattle Seahawks ranked 25th in time of possession per drive, 2 minutes and 40 seconds, right? Like, how many times did we see them, maybe score a touchdown and then that next drive you get the 3 and out because a 1 yard run and 2 incomplete passes, or 3 incomplete passes, or
no control.
Whatever version gets you to Michael Dixon getting on the football field happening so often. Because look, it's a simplistic stat. They were 17th in yards per carry last year. That's not great, but it's not exactly the disaster that you would expect, right? That is, in fact, one spot from being exactly average. It's the fact that they just, I know we all got sick of the ETR, right? The establish the run stuff. But when you have no establishment of it whatsoever, the Seahawks just became too easy to defend. It became too easy for defenses to scheme against this team. And the fact is that you never felt like those defenses were tired. Like, I'm old. I made a Natron Means reference in this freaking podcast. Obviously, I'm old, right? But I can remember watching Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson and how tired those defenses were working against those guys. And Sean Alexander could have just skipped. He could have grittied. He could have done whatever he wanted between those holes because they were massive, not just because those are two of the upper echelon players to play, but because Mike Holmgren established the run. Yeah, he passed a lot too, right? He was certainly a guy. He's one of the absolute originators of the West Coast offense, but he made the run a part of the game. And there were just way too many times last year where the run game just went completely kaput.
Yeah, I really like what you brought up there, Turbo, with you're not going to put us off our game, right? Just because maybe we're down in the game. I want to ask Corbin, who has been in the coaching shoes before, how much, and you can talk about, the running game specifically or any other part of coaching, because everyone talks about preparation. You got to get ready for what you're going against. How much in that preparation is we just got to do what we do well versus we got to prep to do what the other team either isn't expecting or is something that matches up well with them. Take advantage of your matchups in that way. How much of that, it's a balance, right? So where do you think that balance lies, especially with this Seahawk team?
Look, if you're asking for my personal opinion, I would go 75-25, whereas 75% is like, you better just be able to do what you need to do well.
Okay.
Like, it boils down to execution. Turbo understands that. I mean, everybody in the league runs a lot of the same concepts. It really boils down to which team. And look, the game planning aspect, you're always looking as an offensive coordinator, like even at the high school level, when I'm watching film and I'm diving in, and it was long enough ago that I was still like doing huddle when they had didn't have all the sorting stuff still there. But look, when you are going through film, you are looking for those tendencies. You are trying to okay, what kind of fronts do they do against these types of formations? Like, you're looking for all those things and you cater a game plan. But I have to it's kind of like, if you've ever been to a restaurant that has 9 million things on their menu, but none of them are great.
Yeah.
Factory.
You don't want an offense that's like that. I don't want to go to a restaurant where it's the food was fine, but man, this 18-pound menu was awesome.
Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
You don't want a playbook that's 18 pounds and you aren't effective at consistently executing. And I just thought last year that the run game was a lot that way, where you'd see Ryan Grubb occasionally. You know what? Let's try to pivot back to this, but and the other issue was the predictability of the play action. They were running all their play fakes to the same side, and the play that jumps out to me that showed that teams had caught on to that already, the Giants game, when Brian Burns just completely omitted the running back in the backfield on a 4th and short and just went right to Geno Smith because he knew, wait, this is going to be a pass play because of the predictability. So to me, it's a 75-25 thing from a coaching perspective where, you've got to have the ability to game plan. You've got to be able to make some in-game adjustments, but you better damn well be able to do what you say you're going to do. And it's kind of like, Gray's able today, very simple, our philosophy with John Benton, run the damn football. There's a mentality aspect of this that to me is even bigger than what the plays are. And scheming is going to be important. That's really putting the icing on the cake.
Right.
But mentality is just such a big part of running the freaking football.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think, again, untrained eyes and kind of from an outside perspective on what was going on with the Seahawks offense and Ryan Grubb and everything, I felt like it was almost the opposite that was going on, right? At the time, whereas he was too stubborn. He wouldn't change what he wanted to do. You're saying it's almost an over adjustment. He was trying to change what he was doing too much and not establish, what makes your football team good.
Yeah, I just got the sense that there were a lot of games where, like, if you wanted to see the game, that Arizona road game was the one where I was like, he's finally getting it. That was the game I was like,
yeah,
we finally you're seeing Ryan Grubb figure out, like, look, they're not stopping that game. The counter Trey was just murdering the Cardinals. They could not defend it. And then they got away from it in the second half. And the game didn't end up being changed. The Seahawks had command of it at that point. But, like, it felt like in that sense that you couldn't stick with what was working with your team, and you weren't. That's where that 75% comes in. The stuff they were executing well, they weren't really diving into it because of that stubbornness. Like, I want to be a 4 wide. Like, he couldn't help himself, and at the end of the day, he couldn't help himself from ending up in Tuscaloosa, is what it ended up boiling down to.
Yeah. Turbo, really quick for you. Is it that just easy of an adjustment? Not easy, I shouldn't say, but, like, is it that simple of an adjustment to where if they kind of stay more stubborn and do establish, what makes them a good football team? And as Corbin was saying, that Gray Zabel pointed out, run the damn ball. Is that going to be that big of a difference for this offense? Because I think a lot of people see this as at least an above average offense coming into 2025.
You know what's interesting about a playbook? Corbin could probably speak to this, being a coach. Like, there's a lot of plays in the playbook. There's a lot of plays in the playbook, which is dope because you got these schemes and different runs and things of that nature. But then you shrink it to your core. Yeah. Doesn't mean you eliminate the other stuff.
Yeah.
But then you shrink it to your core. And what happens is when you go into a game and the coaches have scouted and they've gone through and they're putting together their game plan, they're like, oh, we've got this play in our playbook that we don't run very much that would be good against this scheme.
Yeah.
So it's not really about changing or creating a new play. These are plays we've already practiced. We just don't run them a lot because the scheme that we're playing against really hasn't forced us to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really the difference too. Every now and then you'll go in the game and say, okay, we're installing a new play, especially a run. Mm-hmm. Like that doesn't happen all the time. All right. Every now and then you'll get a new run. But for the most part, if it's a new play, it's really an old play that hasn't been run since training camp.
Right.
That's really what that is. And that's really the intriguing thing about game planning and the playbook and going into the game and the install process. The other thing that I wanted to, put out there, I know we've had a little bit of conversation about Coach Cable, but with Coach Cable, man, just like you guys said about the mentality part of it, he's like, look, everybody in the world know we run an outside zone.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Stop it.
Come stop us.
Yeah.
And so when you have that mindset,
that's where that
like
mentality comes in.
Yeah. When you had that mindset, it's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's not, because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to: blocking and tackling, making people miss, and making stuff happen when you got the ball in your hands. Period. And when you have a coach, it's like, oh my gosh, they're gonna put a guy on the line of scrimmage, so we gotta change that. Come on, man.
Yeah.
It's just football. You have to change up your scheme every time somebody doing something different.
And to go off what he's saying, to go off what you're saying, Turbo, like a lot of times it is, and you'll notice this, like a lot of times it's run plays that you have and then you do wrinkles with it. Like you might be playing a team that has a different front where you're saying, okay, if you're a gap team, you might be saying we like running power normally with our backside guard pulling across, but maybe in this particular game, the front we're going to run power G, which means the play side guard's the one that's pulling. We're gonna get a quicker pull to go get the guy, or you mix in pin and pulls off of that based on the fronts, or you say, hey, we're gonna bring out a trap this week because the way they're playing their nose tackle. So those are the things that you see. That's where the game planning is. It's not suddenly Frankensteining a bunch of brand new plays. It's saying, look, this is what this team we think they're going to do.
Yep.
And sometimes you don't need to do but what I like about the zone concepts that Kubiak has, we even saw it today at practice, like they are going to mix in 2-back sets with the fullback, and there's a lot of different wrinkles you can do week to week with a fullback, different things you can do. You can do slice blocks, you can do lead blocks, lead zone, you can do wham, which we saw today on the split zone with the guy going across. And there's a lot of different wrinkles that you can do with that. You can have H-backs that are kind of like nub tight ends. I could keep talking about this, but there's a lot of different stuff you can do based on the opponent and the type of formations you have. It's more about the way that you showcase your runs and the wrinkles that you put into it rather than, hey, here's a bunch of new plays for you this week.
So the one thing I would say, though, and I agree with all this, and this was super fun to listen to, by the way, we could do this for another 6 hours. I know there's a cliche that also says there's X's and O's and there's Billies and Joes, right? And if the Billies and Joes on the offensive line aren't better than they were last year, a lot of that isn't going to matter as much to me, right?
Oh, that's facts.
If you don't have the healthy Abraham Lucas, if you don't have Anthony Bradford or Christian Haynes take a massive step forward, if Olufemi and potentially, I know you've talked about Jalen Sundell, Corbin, if those guys aren't considerably better than they were in the year of our Lord 2024, if they're not better than that in the year of our Lord 2025, it won't matter as much. The attitude and all that stuff, no doubt about it. But Gray Zabel's got to be a beast from day one. Charles Cross has to take that step into being a top 5 offensive tackle. Abraham Lucas has to be healthy. So all great, and I'm not just giving this as a pass as a Ryan Grubb fan, because Ryan Grubb deserved to lose his job. I hate saying it, but he absolutely deserved to lose his job.
Yeah, I was rooting for Ryan Grubb.
Yeah, I wasn't rooting against him by any stretch of the imagination, but I will say that it didn't work out. But if this offensive line isn't better, it's not going to matter how much of that attitude, in my humble estimation.
Last comment though.
Go.
And you're right about that. This is so with that, in conjunction with that, like Robbie Oots, he got to be a beast too. Like your fullback has to be a crazy, not all the way there in his head, person. For real.
Yeah.
He got to be. It doesn't matter who in the gap, because why is that important? Maybe you have a weaker offensive line. Maybe you have a strong one.
Yeah.
The thing that we miss when we talk about fullbacks, we talk about scheme and he can cross and do all these things.
Yeah.
The fullback is the ultimate cleanup hitter.
Sure.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
He's like the cleaning lady at the hotel.
Yeah.
You got stuff everywhere. Then you come back to your room in the afternoon and you're like, dang, this is clean in here. My bed's made. When you're playing against a dominant defensive lineman like a JJ Watt or something like that, those little rib shots, or that can turn into a double team sometimes. Yeah, opens the gap for the running back to get to the second level. Yeah, so when you got a guy in the backfield, if he's good,
right?
Okay, because some fullbacks are soft now.
Yeah,
if he's good and he's physical, man, he can clean up a lot of that. Yeah. Penetration you might get in the backfield, man, and spring these backs to the second level. Big part of the offense. That's why I'm excited about the fullback.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, and to kind of respond to what Chris said and add on to what Turbo's saying here, yes, your Jimmys and Joes is how I heard it. Maybe it's Billies and Joes. I don't know. Who knows what the actual saying is, but maybe they have to be better in your offensive line. But if you have the mentality, as Corbin and Turbo are talking about, that, hey, we're going to run the football and we're going to make life as easy as possible for our offensive linemen.
Right.
So we're going to limit their shortcomings in that way. We're going to have them
people
attack.
in position to succeed is what
Exactly.
you're saying. Exactly.
So
that's a great point.
Yeah, and that's another way that you can make your offensive line that look terrible at times, because it was asking to do way too much at so many different points of the season last year. All right, we're a little late to break. That's all right. I love this conversation. It's awesome. I feel like I learned so much from two of the experts in the game right here, Turbo and Corbin. Really appreciate what you guys brought to the table there. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll enter. I want to ask a couple questions just regarding the defense, the defensive line, and then we'll do our very fun Predict the Future segment where Nostradamus Chris will make an appearance, and then we'll get out of here for you guys, all right? But first, I have to, in the chat while we're taking this break, let me know what you guys think about everything that you just heard from Corbin and Turbo, right? How important is the run game to you guys? Make sure to like the video if you haven't already. That helps us out a ton, and then leave a comment as always. And we'll talk to you guys in just a second. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy.
This year, me and Locked On Sports are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. You guys know probably I work for RotoWorld, and we work closely with Yahoo Fantasy Sports, and it is the absolute best. It's the best way to do a league just because you don't have to worry about anything. It's set it and forget it. Once you've done your draft and they're going to set up that draft for you, it's going to make it super easy. It's easy to make the waiver wire claims. It's easy to set stuff if you're playing in a fab league where you're going to have action bonuses. It's easy to do all of that stuff. I can't imagine playing anywhere but Yahoo Fantasy Football.
To celebrate 20 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins August 4th.
Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy League at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet.
All right, welcome back into the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hirst, Corbin Smith, Turbo, Robert Turbin, and Christopher Crawford are with me. We're breaking down everything about your Seattle Seahawks just over a week into Seahawks training camp. We're actually almost exactly a week into Seahawks training camp. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. We just had a fantastic breakdown on the running back position and the running game in general in this offense and how big of a difference that can make. A team that's definitely built on its defense. So let's talk about that defense. I'm curious on what you guys think. It seems like the biggest hype man at this point in the training camp is Nick Eamon-Warry. So Corbin, am I right in that sense?
Look, if you're wanting to say figuratively or literally, that would be the right answer. Mike Morris is every bit 6'6", and I was talking with several other reporters about this today. Nick Eamon-Warry is literally like an inch shorter than him. Like they list him 6'3". Wow. He's closer to 6'5". He doesn't look like he belongs with the defensive backs. It is insane. And they list him at 220. I bet he's 235, 240. And does he run in the 4.3s? Yeah, he looks like he moves that fluidly. Like he is incredibly fun. We got to see him a couple times in Tuesday's practice, get after the quarterback as a blitzer. I mean, they've been playing him in the box for the most part. And look, you already have two guys that can play deep safety. What Eamon-Warry allows you to do, you can play him in the nickel. He can defend speedy receivers because he has the athleticism to do that. He can defend tight ends because he's probably bigger than most of them that he's going to go against. And he can defend running backs out of backfield. You can blitz him. He can play off the edge at that size. It opens up. We talk playbooks. I mean, Mike McDonald last year, he had to really scrape that playbook down as the season went on because, look, we just need to find what we're really good at, and let's do that. They're going to be able to expand on that, not just because the comfort level in year two, but because Nick Eamon-Warry is going to create so many different matchup issues for opposing defenses. And I was also thinking about this as a play caller. Like, if I'm gearing up for the Seattle Seahawks this year and Devin Witherspoon and Nick Eamon-Warry are both on the field in a dime package, who the hell's coming? Is it both of them? Is one of them? Yeah. I think it creates a lot of issues. D'Anthony Bell's going to play some snaps. They're going to do 4 safety looks in this defense. Yeah. And I'm just thinking the confusion as a play caller, trying to game plan for that week to week, wondering like, well, I don't know who's going to be playing what position because they have so many guys that can play 3 or 4 spots. And it just creates an incredible amount of flexibility for a mad scientist in Mike McDonald.
So speaking of preparing for those types of defenses, Turbo, in your eyes, if you're going against, let's bring this question to you. If you're going against an elite defensive line or an elite set of linebackers or an elite secondary, what kind of scares you the most as a running back? Well, not scares you. What are you most worried about going into game day? If you were to choose one of those spots to be most concerned about heading into a game day, where would you lie?
Well, it's probably the defensive line because it alters my assignment as a running back.
Yeah.
For example, like if I'm going up against who's great in the league, TJ Watt.
Right.
We're going up against TJ Watt. Okay. TJ Watt. Matter of fact, let's go with Micah Parsons because Micah Parsons lines up in different spots. TJ's, pretty primarily lines up on the offensive right side. Myles Garrett primarily lines up on the offensive left side. Micah Parsons is a guy that moves around. Well, guess what? I got to have eyes on this guy all the time and be able to take care of what my responsibilities are in pass protection in terms of linebacker, DB.
Yeah.
So I've got to say, okay, boom, said Hut, linebacker, DB, they're not coming. Where's Micah? Because before I get in my route, my job is I got to get a chip on this guy. And I may have a route to the right, but if Micah Parsons is running to the left, guess what I got to do? I got to get over there, get a chip, and then work my way back somewhere to the right side where my route is supposed to be. A lot of people don't understand that, the running back position. So it's the defensive line that alters just the assignment. And that's why that position is the most dangerous. And when we talk about our defense, I know we got some playmakers and some guys that can do some things, and the defense is going to be the X factor to me is DeMarcus Lawrence.
Okay,
for this defense this year, he is the unquestioned X factor to the success and dominance of this defense this year. Okay, because if he's a guy that can wreak havoc on a consistent basis like he has over the course of his career, then you just throw your hands up. Now we got some problems.
Yeah.
Now you can talk about Devin Witherspoon and this guy and Uchenna Nwosu coming back healthy, and now you got some real problems.
Yeah.
You got both sides.
So as of now, do you have that same? If you're a running back preparing for going against the Seahawks defense, do you have that same worry factor for someone like DeMarcus Lawrence as maybe a TJ Watt or a Micah Parsons? Does he have that factor going into game day?
I don't know yet. But the guy that does is Leonard Williams.
Okay.
That's the guy right now. That's the guy I know for a fact. If I were on another team and I was getting ready to play the Seahawks defense today, our running backs coach and offensive coordinator would be like, okay, before you get out, you got to get a chip on Leonard Williams.
Yeah.
You got to get a chip on him. Okay. That would be the guy that we would probably key on right now. But other than that, it remains to be seen. We don't know what we're going to get from D-Law yet.
All right, Chris, I'm going to ask you this one before we head to our Predict the Future segment. If you were to rank the D-line, the linebackers, and the secondary, which area do you think the Seahawks have the highest ceiling group?
Ceiling, I'd probably go secondary just because I think with what Tariq Woolen can do on top of having a guy like Devin Witherspoon, who we all know, I think he had a 90 grade against the run and on top of being an excellent shutdown cornerback and just the fact Eamon Worry. So the thing I heard from some people I talked to was that there were times where they viewed that Eamon Worry sometimes got away with just being more athletic than everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Just being so much more athletic and so much bigger that he could get and didn't always take the best angles to plays. But from everything I've heard from people who have watched this guy, this guy has instincts that are just elite on top of the fact that he has that upper echelon athleticism there. So when you have that and you have probably the most underrated free safety in football and Julian Love and some other really good players, I would go the highest ceiling would be the secondary.
Yeah.
And probably the highest floor too. Just
really?
I think all of those guys are going to be really good football players this year. I love what Turbo said about DeMarcus Lawrence, and I brought it up in our last show just because he's not only a guy who can get to the quarterback, he is so good against the run. He is such a good player in terms of setting that edge and not the type of guy who is going to he's not a selfish football player. He doesn't blow his assignment. He is that guy who sets that edge so that other guys can go make plays. Ernest Jones is going to love having DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah.
You never are going to have to worry about that guy being out of position. That's still the position I'm the most concerned about as linebacker, the guys behind those guys. But if you're asking me for the highest ceiling, I think it is the secondary.
Okay. See, I would go highest ceiling secondary, but I'd go highest floor D-line. I think you basically know what you're getting there. You got players like Leonard Williams, and what you guys are saying about DeMarcus Lawrence gets me very excited as well. I just don't think you have that elite guy on that defensive line, but maybe something like a Chenna Nwosu comes back and we'll see what ends up happening there. But that's always a big question mark when it comes to injury. All right. Well, we've been waiting for it all episode, but let's get to the Predict the Future segment right after this quick commercial break. And I have a question for you guys. Welcome back into the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hirst, Chris Crawford, Corbin Smith, Robert Turbin for the last few minutes here. And we just did a huge breakdown on the running game in this offense with Clint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator, John Benton as the offensive line coach. What effect in a different mentality will it have on the rest of the offense? So I just have one question for all you guys, and you can answer yes or no, or you can go deeper into it. I know Corbin will, because this is just what he does. But will this Seahawks team, and I know this isn't everything, but I think it's a representation of what the priorities are in this offense. Will this Seahawks team have a 1,000-yard rusher in 2025? Corbin Smith.
Yes, they will, and it's going to be Ken Walker.
Okay.
If you're going to ask me, is he going to go off for like 1,400 or 1,500 yards? I would say no, because I think there's going to be too many other guys that are going to get opportunities. But I think it would be a massive disappointment if Ken Walker III is not rushing for 1,000 yards plus in this offense. I think it's catered well to his athleticism. The key is going to be for him the vision aspect, and not, it's weird because sometimes he's too patient, and then sometimes he's not patient enough and he likes to bounce runs.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. He's got to be able to understand the blocking in front of him. He's got to be able to use his vision to find those creases when they're there in this offense. But I think Ken Walker III is more than capable of doing that. So yeah, I'll say yes. I think Ken Walker gets 1,000 plus this year.
Turbo, what do you think? He hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since his rookie year in 22. So what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Answer is yes. He will.
All right.
And in terms of his vision and things of the nature that he needs to get better at, again, that's where the fullback, I'm telling you, man, the fullback plays like the running back's eyes, man. He's going to help that vision a lot. So the answer is yes.
All right, Chris, Nostradamus, Chris, what do you think? 1,000-yard rusher, yes or no?
I'm going to go no. And it's nothing against Kenneth Walker. I think it's just history suggests that there's a good chance that he's just not going to get enough games in to reach that mark. Now, I think he will reach 1,000 total yards. I do believe that he will reach that with his receiving yards and with his rushing yards. But I'm going to guess he gets something like 850 on the ground and 250 receiving, which is still a very valuable player. But I'll bet against the 1,000-yard mark.
Wow. All right. I don't know if that's what he actually believes or if he's just playing devil's advocate over here. Whoever. Yeah,
I want to make Robin Turbin mad at me and have him just hear it.
See, this is a tough one for me because on one hand, I agree with what you guys are saying with Ken Walker, because I think this offense fits him really, really well. But if your depth is as good as people have advertised it, then it's not just injuries that are going to keep him from doing that. It's going to be opportunities from other people. If Damian Martinez is as special as everyone's pointing him out to be and as hyped about him, if Zach Charbonnet is also a second-round pick, by the way, if he's going to get as much opportunity as a lot of people believe he should, then that's just going to limit the opportunities for Ken Walker. I still think he does. I think he has, I don't want to say breakout season because people kind of already know he's here. Sure. But I think he announces this is who he is. And I think he has at least a 1,200-yard season coming.
Can I Nostradamus Chris another thing though?
Okay.
I will say that while he doesn't reach 1,000 yards, I do think he'll reach double-digit touchdowns this year. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if he was in that 11 to 13 range for a career high, because I just think they're going to be running the football like crazy between the 20s in this offense. So I do think he will reach that, but I'll just guess he comes a little short of the 1,000-yard mark.
All right. Well, chat, let us know what you think. Do the Seahawks have a 1,000-yard rusher? Is it Ken Walker? I think most people would think that if they do, that's who it will be. But, never know with the talent they have in the backfield, and especially now with Kenny McIntosh out for the season. If you missed any part of today's show, you can check it out on anywhere you get your podcast. You can watch it on YouTube, of course, as well. Make sure to go to that live section and you will see all of the Seahawks squad shows along with the Locked On Seahawks content with Corbin Smith, Rob Rang, and Nick Lee as well. We will talk to you guys on Thursday, 6 p.m. We'll break it all down for you. I think we'll have Rob instead of Corbin on Thursday, and then we'll see if Nostradamus.
Yeah, he's going to stop being lazy and fishing, and he's going to come on the show. So.
Wow, jeez. Okay, shots fired. I'm letting him know you said that. All right, we'll talk to you guys on Thursday.
That's what we do, my friend.
Yeah, it is exactly what we do here on Locked On Seahawks. Really appreciate you guys hanging out once again. And just a reminder that once the preseason starts, we will have your post-game show here as the Seahawks Squad Show. One of the 2 episodes per week will be right after the Seahawks play each and every week during the preseason and, of course, the regular season as well. And hopefully the postseason. We'll see what ends up happening. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. This has been your Seahawks Squad Show. We'll talk to you guys on Thursday.